Hello once again. Thanks for joining us here on Leading Edge. I'm your host, Jeff Smith. Kindergarten, I think you would all agree, is all about socializing. Elementary school and beyond becomes this chase for grades and success in the classroom or on projects. But into college, the trades, and the real world, it's pretty safe to say it's all about connections, right? Well, now there are thousands of graduates of each and every school in this country, but finding those connections, making those connections, and keeping those connections seems like a monumental task. Well, thank God for people like Rick Longenecker, who is sewing it all together. He's got the string, he is sewing it all together, and Rick, outside of his day job, is hosting a podcast where he is discovering University of Toledo graduates who have stories that inspire, they enrich, and they engage. Mainly because these people are all made up of different talents, temperaments, and convictions, but they all share the same bond. They are rockets for life, as is Rick Longenecker, who's joining us. That intro pretty much summing up what we're feeling here?
I like it.
You started the Rocket Networker podcast, and that's what we want to talk about here today, is just kind of getting the word out there about this podcast, why it is this bridge, and why you wanted to create this bridge.
It's a great question, and thank you for having me
Absolutely.
here today to talk about it. So it started when I got out of college. Early in my career, I got transferred to California, and my wife and I didn't know anyone.
Grew up in Toledo.
Grew up in Toledo.
Yeah.
We both went to Central Catholic High School, UT grads, finished my master's. So we get out to California, and we started a network with the University of Toledo alumni all over Los Angeles, and got involved with the University of Toledo Alumni Association.
You did this on your own. You felt it was important.
Well, that and friends. Dan Savig, who ran the University of Toledo Alumni Association for many years, we did our master's together, and he encouraged me to do it, and I got involved. And we started meeting thousands, not hundreds, thousands of UT alumni all over.
Was there any kind of club or anything to that effect in California at that time?
Not at the time, but they asked us to start one, so we helped start a University of Toledo alumni chapter there.
Okay.
And then we moved to San Francisco. We got transferred there. We did the same thing there. And then we got transferred to New York City, the metro New York area, and we started one there that we ran for 20 years.
What was the reception?
People are very, very happy to meet a fellow Rocket alum. But we also met Toledoans. We met people that went to Ottawa Hills, that went to Ohio State, that ended up in New York or LA.
Sure.
And so we built this big Toledo network.
I talked a little bit about the networking and how it can seem intimidating, it can seem monumental, but how important it is in your daily role, not only is connecting rockets,
right,
but also in the business world. Talk about that a little bit.
I mean, networking is everything for folks, especially today, right? In the old days, if you knew people, you could get a job and you could be an average performer. Today, you have to be a great performer and be a great networker and know people. So, I mean, to me, it's important. And we do a lot of work with high school and college kids, teaching them and introducing them to UT alumni all over the world. It's fun stuff, and getting them to model the behavior. And that's part of what the podcast is about.
I want to get into the podcast here in a minute. I also want to share the 5 parameters of networking and connections that you have shared with me. I wanted to share them there with you, there at home today. You talked about the importance of connecting people, transmitting energy, embracing friction, simplifying complexity, and celebrating inquisitiveness. I want you to touch on each of these. First, connecting people. Why is that important?
I mean, connecting people is important because we talk about diversity. It's not just diversity in race and religion and those things. It's diversity of thought and meeting people in different industries and meeting people from all over the world and being open because it broadens your horizon. It's critical. Let's
look at the next one. The next one being talking about, as we're going here, the Rocket Networker program, the podcast with Rick Longenecker, transmitting energy.
People love to be around energy. Some people call me, they nickname the Energizer Bunny because I just deliver energy, man. And I don't do it on purpose. I try to sit quiet and shy and soft-spoken, but God didn't wire me that way.
I've told my bosses here, I said I like trying to embrace the role of almost being the mayor of the newsroom or the mayor of any business situation you're in. Is that what you mean? Kind of stepping up to the moment and making sure everybody around you reaches that level?
Right, helping lift people up, exactly. Just delivering the positivity to people and helping them through the energy just to see what they can be. and just unleash that energy that's inside all of us.
Simplifying complexity is one of them, but I want to get to embracing friction.
Embracing friction.
What does that mean exactly?
Embracing friction means that, in the world we live in today, people don't want to embrace that friction. We have different political issues.
Does that mean
different
conflict?
Beliefs. It's not conflict. It's celebrating that we may have a difference of opinion because you may have a different assumption than I do. I might assume something is blue and you assume it's orange. And until we know that that's your assumption, we might argue about it. Once I realize that you and I look at it through a different assumption and we can get our assumptions aligned, that's embracing the friction that allows us then to get through that friction and not get emotional. Emotions kill us.
Talk about simplifying complexity. What does that mean?
Simplifying complexity is the world is just complicated and we're introducing AI and technology every day, right? And it just gets more complex. So we have to simplify the things that we do so that people want to be around us. They don't want to be around complex things.
And you said celebrating inquisitiveness, and I think the inquisitiveness leans you into this podcast.
It does. Being inquisitive to me, when I interview people to hire people, whether they're the CEO or a janitor, I want them to be inquisitive because if they're open and inquisitive, that means we can teach them and they will learn. It's really critical, right?
Yeah. In broadcasting, we talk about the establishing shot when we shoot video because you have to know your subject before you dive in and start getting into the story. That's what we just did right here. We just established shotted this entire interview. When we come back, we're going to dive into the podcast and get a little more into not only who you've been talking to, where these people are around the globe, not just the U.S., around the globe, but also the questions and the things your inquisitiveness found.
Thank you.
All right, Rick, stay right there. We'll be back right after this. We talk about passion and purpose on this show quite a bit, and I found another guest who has that. Driving it home here today, Rick Longenecker joining me, talking about the Rocket Networker podcast. I said before we went to break, we're going to dive into the podcast now. You said at the age of 60, I'm embracing this technology and getting into this. How much was the learning curve for you starting a podcast? And let's talk about your guests and finding them.
Right. So I didn't want to do the podcast, but I was encouraged by friends because I don't like to look at myself, and the worse than that, I don't like to hear myself. So I didn't want to do it, but I embraced it.
Those are two negatives.
Yeah, man,
right
I don't want to look
right?
at myself. And when I look at this on the TV monitor, I'm having a hard time. But that's okay. But no, it wasn't hard. It took me a few months to learn it, and I talked to friends, and I'm bootstrapping. I'm a junior assistant to the assistant first-year apprentice. I'm learning, man. I'm learning.
You are low level
it's
at
choppy,
this point.
I'm low level, but it's not about me, and it's not about the technology. It's about those guests.
Chuck Ely, we're looking at him right there.
Ely.
Of course, just a Hall of Famer in every sense of the word for the University of Toledo. Your other guests that you have sought out, the ones you have found. Talk about that.
You know what? It's great. I've met a lot of these folks so far. We've done 18 podcasts since April 1st.
Did you know him prior to this?
Yeah, everybody I've done so far, I know. Chuck Ely, I run his foundation. I led the campaign to get Chuck Ely inducted in the College Football Hall of Fame. We're lifelong friends, and so yes, I know Chuck and everybody else so far we've interviewed. But as we broaden out, there are thousands and thousands of UT alumni around the world, and a lot of those I won't know, but we're going to hunt them down, and that's where I need your guests to help us.
Yeah. Who's coming on in the next segment, and you will meet Tisha here in just a bit.
Yeah.
Talk to me about you,
right?
And this is where I'm interested in it because I love listening. I love hearing the answer and then reacting to that, asking questions. Do you go in with a script? Because obviously you know these people ahead of time, but where is the interviewer in you? Where's that coming from?
You know what it is? I have a thing that I teach when I teach networking called the threads of connectivity. It's very simple things that connect us beyond work. So the focus is on going back to their hometown. Where are they from? Where'd they go to high school? Where'd they go to college? What were they involved with in college? Those are the threads that connect us as human beings. The towns we live in, our children, the sports they play, that's what connects us. So the script is that simple. I just walk them through their life, and I go with the flow just like you do right now with me.
I want to share one story that you had. You'll
Please.
have to remind me of the young lady's name who you interviewed who's in the Dallas area.
Yes.
But she specifically had a story that she was laying out, and you said all of a sudden as you're talking to her, something else pops. Her story, her background, the fact that she is an African-American woman, grew up in a white household, and didn't have experiences that her friends had because of that.
Exactly. Raquel Cunningham. She grew up by Scott High School, but her grandfather lived by Start. So she ended up going to high school at Start, got involved, and as we're going through the podcast, you can watch it, she's talking about the experience of getting involved and going to the University of Toledo and getting involved in a sorority and the life. And all of a sudden, she talks about, I was around people that could finally, connect with me, and I could understand why my hair is curly and the way it is and what type of product I use in my hair. And it caught me. I'm like, because what do we do in society? We look at someone that's white and we assume their parents are white. We look at them, they're black, we assume their parents are black. So I was like, wait a minute, this is something we need to talk about in society. Here's this woman raised in a white family that had to straighten her hair.
Yeah.
And because she didn't know it, no one had taught her, and her family didn't know what to do. So it was just that story in her just intrigued me. And I had met her in New York City when she graduated from the University of Toledo 20 years ago.
Talk about, I talked when we went into, once again, Rick Longenecker joining us, I talked about the expansiveness of this alumni network and the fact that you're reaching people who are across the globe, not just across the U.S., across the globe. Abu Dhabi is one of the guests that you have?
Two of them, yeah, 2 guests in Abu Dhabi. This summer, we have a young professional from Fifth Third that is a UT grad that's in the military. He did an active combat tour. He's now going with the National Guard or the Army Reserve to spend 1 year over in the United Arab Emirates. Well, I reached a UT alumni, and we've set him up to meet with about 25 UT alumni that live between Abu Dhabi or in Dubai, and they're going to host a group event there and help him. And 2 of those guests you can see in the podcast that will be part of that.
I'm sure the answers are many, but has there been one that has stood out to you that you've been like, wow, I can't believe that was part of our conversation?
The Raquel conversation was outstanding. I always love those stories. That impressed me. But, Al Thigpen, Al lives in Chicago. Al was captain of the UT football team, I believe in 89, 90, 91. His teammate and best friend is Matt Eberflus, if I said that the right way.
Chicago
Bears head coach. They now live about 5 doors down from each other in Chicago. I've known Al a long time. But Al, I didn't realize that Al had gone through and sold his company that he built for $20 billion. I did not know. I knew he was successful and had sold some big companies. And then he's repeated that a couple of other times. But he's humble. When you watch that podcast, you will see that his Midwest roots and his University of Toledo Rocket Nation ethos about him is the same. It hasn't changed him. And that's a lot of the guests you're going to see. People have made money and they've had huge success at NASA and large corporations around the world, and they're very successful, but they're just the same people that they were when they were here.
And they're all Rockets.
They're all Rockets.
What do you hope that this podcast provides for current students, current faculty, staff, from that matter?
Bragging rights. I worked in the East Coast. I dealt with people from Harvard and Yale. Many of them were employees of mine, and they've got a network that we have, but we just don't leverage it. What I want to see is people to say, Bill Yosis was the White House pastry chef for 8 years for George Bush and for the Obamas. He went to the University of Toledo. I want them to share the story of astronauts. People here need bragging rights. Toledo is a great community. Northwest Ohio is a great place. And our people here, all of us, we need bragging rights. That's what I want.
A little bit of a pat on the back for the community that
I want this community to rise up and realize how great this community is. I left for 30 years with my wife, and I raised my children in New Jersey. My children came back. They went to the University of Toledo. We're proud of that, and we're proud of the community that we live in.
Is there any bitterness of the change from TU to UT?
Well, it's funny. I grew up around that. With Chuck Ely played for TU, right? So then he ended up, while he was at TU, it became the University of Toledo. So no bitterness on my part.
See, I'm an old timer around this.
Do you know why that is? TU was Toledo University when it was owned by the city.
Yeah.
The university went bankrupt, and the state of Ohio took it over in 1967, and it became the University of Toledo. Most people don't know that story.
Well, there you go. You should. There's another subject
Trivial
for your
Pursuit.
podcast.
Maybe it's another podcast.
You have a history moment on your podcast. Rick,
or
nice
a senior
job.
moment.
Nice job. Thank you so much for spending some time with us. Once again, Rick Longenecker. You can find the Rocket Networker podcast anywhere you find podcasts, as well as if you want to look at Rick, it's on the YouTube. It's on YouTube as well. Rick, thank you.
Thank you for having me.
We'll be back right after this. Welcome back. Summer programming has been a real focus here in Toledo the last several years. It's been a way to keep the kids in class while they're out of class. And while most times you might think about it being summer camp, sports during the summer months, these days it's about so much more. In fact, some of these camps are built to advance kids' skills in new and blossoming technology. That's why we're glad to have Tisha Mays from Amazing Kids, right? There you go.
Yes.
She's showing it off, networking here. Tisha, good to be here. Thank you so much for being here. We appreciate it because we want to talk not only about the summer program, but also, if you didn't know, she's also very responsible for Wednesdays with Wade, with our mayor, Wade Kapsakavage. And I have to ask you right out of the gate, my goodness, you deserve some kudos for getting through that and getting that off the ground.
Yeah, it is amazing. And I actually have to credit, Dr. Tiffany Whitman, who is now our Director of Diversity Inclusion for the City of Toledo, they were trying to find innovative ways and unique ways to reach the community. So as we know, podcasting, that's unique, and it's about access when we're talking about radio and getting the message out there. So she connected me with Rachel Hart, who is the Director of Communications for the city. And here we are. And now we are at our 37th episode.
Getting Wade over the hump of actually talking in sound bites and listening to topics that are pitched to him. How'd that go?
Oh my, but you know what? And I'm like, you know what? He has a background in communication. And I'm like, this is amazing. And it's been a lot of fun, but I will say the most, what I get most out of it is when you were just talking with Rick about podcasting, but there's something that it's genuine, right? We see the forefront of politics. We see what's going on, the bad things that are happening in the city, but this gives the behind the scenes, and it actually shows that, folks who are working for our council, our commissioners, our directors, they're from the city too, and it gives it a
little more personal.
It is. It's a lot more personal, and I am more informed because of it, because you are getting a lot of the backstory. So we're talking about. For example, if we're talking about roads, right, fixing the roads, where does the budget come from? Like, how do we find the funds to fill potholes, right? Where does grant funding come from? So it's just a really awesome and really unique experience, and I learn something new every day.
Well, it allows you the breadth of not having to be so handcuffed to just a 15-second sound bite, which that's why I love this show, because each and every week we get the opportunity to chat a little more. You're also connected to the University of Toledo, so I know what Rick was talking about is near and dear to your heart as far as podcasting was concerned. Let's talk specifically about these kids. And we talked about the importance of summer programming and having kind of those vehicles out there to keep kids engaged over the summer months. But you have found a real niche with this in the sense that this is the future. Right?
I mean, they're going to take our spots here real soon.
I'm already ready for it. Trust me. If it's not AI, it's these guys.
Oh my goodness, And
but where did the idea come from to bring it to youth?
Yeah, so 3 years ago, so I'm getting ready to go on my 4th year of starting this program, and it came from the literacy gap. So what I learned, I was substituting at one point, and I said, you know what, these kids they're not interested in reading, they're not engaging, and they're not graduating on time. So I started bringing my podcasting
Let me ask you about that, because we do so many stories about there being tough times as far as reading and the skills that are out there. But as far as the eye test is concerned, you're saying it's real.
Oh, yeah, for sure. Yeah. And, they needed something exciting. And so what I was doing when I was subbing was I was taking my podcasting equipment and we were doing sight words. We were reading sight words. They were doing their ELA homework.
We were just looking at a young girl who was reading a book in front of a microphone. She had headphones on, but you said that wasn't necessarily just a podcasting lesson. That was getting them over the hump of being comfortable with reading out loud.
Absolutely. So it is a unique approach to teaching them how to read.
Okay.
So it is a literacy program. So what you saw was a young girl who was reading a book. Some of the children that we see, some of them are shadow readers, so you read, they follow. And other ones, they are fluent readers. So it is to build the communication skills, promote public speaking, and of course, just kind of building those personal skills, that engagement.
What is the age range?
Oh, so actually I start at grades 4 and I go through high school.
Okay.
And I actually just ran a program in April. It was my first program. It was an integrated media camp and it was for kids with autism. So we go year round. So our programming is offered year round, and I have myself on staff, and then also I'm a lecturer at the University of Toledo. So I teach in the communication and media department. We just renamed. But so I teach a lot of my students who are in my podcasting classes, my Audio 1 and Production 2 classes. They are my interns, so they actually work for the program.
Awesome.
Yeah, so it is really considered a pipeline to broadcasting. So our young people, they're coming in and they are seeing what they can be, right, at a young age, because I wish that I had something like an opportunity like this when I was younger.
Right.
You know, so it is, and so our interns, they come in, they work with the kids, and a lot of it is practice of what we've been doing.
Do you hold it at a library? I mean, obviously there are books behind some of these young kids in the photos.
So sometimes we host it at the Toledo Lucas County Public Library. We also go to community centers, but then year round we are in schools.
Gotcha.
We're in school. So we just wrapped up our second session and we're heading into our third next week.
How do people find out if they want to get involved?
Yes.
Obviously we've got our current kids are going through right now, but is there another startup coming up soon?
Sure, yeah, amazingkids.org. We're going to be starting at the City of Toledo's Parks and Youth Services building next week.
It's AMAYS.
Yes, Amaze. Yes. So, so we start there next week, and then we'll be getting ready to head into our after-school programming.
Okay.
You know, which is, again, it was just a thought, and, you know, it comes full circle, because when I had this idea years ago, it was when the City of Toledo unleashed the first youth programming grant funding.
I have to wish you, I'm getting the wrap, but I have to wish you continued good luck, and thank you so much.
Thank you.
She smiles when she talks about it. You know, passion and purpose is there. We'll be back right after this. Couple of great topics this week, weren't they? I'll tell you what, big thank you to Tisha and Rick for joining us, and thank you to you, as always, for taking part of your weekend to sit down and find out what the Leading Edge is all about. We hope to see you next time. I'm Jeff Smith. Have a great rest of your week.